Hello, this is The Point of View. It's your favorite current affairs show on television here in Ghana. My name is Bernard Avle. On The Point of View, we get the right guests and we ask them relevant questions on pertinent issues that matter to you. It's an interactive program. If you're watching on television, send us your views and your comments on the WhatsApp number on the screen. And of course, if you are watching on social media, whether it's Facebook or any of the streams, we'll be happy to hear from you as well. So tonight, we will be looking at a very, very big story. Since August 2017, the government of Ghana has been trying to resolve a crisis in its financial sector. It's led to the disappearance of 9 banks, 22 savings and loans and microfinance companies, 347 microfinance institutions, 31 microcredit, and 53 fund management companies. We asked the question today, are we out of the woods yet? What is left to be done in the financial sector of Ghana so it can move forward? I have a very exciting panel for us. Stay tuned. So welcome back to The Point of View. Today we're delving into Ghana's financial sector. Now, whether you are a bank customer, a savings and loan or finance house customer or a microfinance customer, we want to know if your issues have been resolved. Have you been paid? Are you happy? Are you going back into the financial sector? Let's know from your experience. Send us a WhatsApp on the number we will put on the screen throughout the program. So let's go through the numbers again. August 2017, UT Capital Bank. A few months later, 5 other banks followed suit. Well, we have Consolidated Bank now, but that wasn't the end of the issue. 22 savings and loans microfinance companies also went, savings and loans and finance houses also went down. Of course, they were taken over by a receiver who's trying to realize assets from them. Then, of course, we had 347 microfinance and another 31 microcredit institutions also had their licenses revoked in 2018. And then finally, 53 fund management companies also had their licenses revoked. How large is this in terms of a crisis? What has government done? Tonight we'll hear from the President of Ghana. He's been making very serious comments on this in the past few weeks. We'll hear from some customers and also some 2 key stakeholders. In studio, I have the Chief Executive of the Private Enterprise Federation. That's the association that brings together all private sector organizations. Nana Osebu, so himself a banker, trained in New York, worked on Wall Street. Nana, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Great to have you on the show.
A pleasure to be here, sir.
Brilliant. I also have my good friend Chunibu Akodi Abuachi, who is the Executive Secretary of the GALSAC, Ghana Savings and Loans Association. Is that the name?
Ghana Association
of Savings and Loans Companies. It's good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
How many members do you have now since the 22 disappeared? Do you still have any members?
Yeah, we have 25 strong savings and loans companies.
25 strong savings and loans companies?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to start off by taking you to Kumasi because in December, a group reached out to me. They were called the Coalition of Affected Savings and Loans Customers, CASLOC. They held a press conference at the close of last year to raise a few issues. We have a report summarizing the concerns they raised at that press conference.
As much as we are thankful to the President, the government and its institutions and officials for heeding our plea to pay us fully of all our locked up funds and ensuring that customers of First Allied, GN and UniCredit have started receiving their locked up funds despite the court issues, we are still not happy at all about a number of issues pertaining to the payment procedure or formula being used in the payment of our monies to us. Some of the payment issues we are very much displeased with include the slow pace, in other words, the tortoise or snail pace in which the payments are being made, the use of text messages for the payments, and the 20,000 Ghana cedis capped payments for customers whose deposits exceed that 20,000 amount. If the President said he has directed the Ministry of Finance to work with the Bank of Ghana to ensure that we are treated like the customers of the 9 collapsed universal banks, then, in order to believe fully what the President said, we want the current payment procedure to be changed or revised in order to ensure the immediate retrieval of our locked up funds. We don't want the situation whereby a customer has to wait till he or she receive a text message from the receiver before he or she can have the right to visit a nearby branch of CBG before he or she can have access to his or her locked up funds. And in some cases, to only some part or portion of his or her locked up funds. Here, we are referring to the capped amount of 20,000 Ghana cedis. By this, we want a consolidated savings and loans company or a consolidated microfinance company to be set up and all our accounts migrated and credited fully there. If only the current Banking and Specialized Depositors Act will permit that. And even if it does not permit that, we appeal that all our accounts are migrated to an existing universal bank or banks, possibly the Consolidated Bank Ghana, CBG, because that is where currently all the payments of affected customers are being made through, and our accounts being credited fully over there, and maybe some restrictions about withdrawals attached to them for some time, until all the required bailout funds are secured by the government.
So that was the spokesperson for the Coalition of Affected Savings and Loans Customers. Now, this was in the third week of December. Do you know these people? And are you surprised that over a year since the companies they saved in were taking over? Because that was 2018. These people say they have still not received their monies. And these are quite a sizable number. Are you surprised, Chinua, that these people held this press conference making these allegations?
Okay, let me say a very good evening to you and continue to commend City TV and your network for the work you're doing. We really appreciate it. And first and foremost, I want to share in the concerns of the affected customers. What that they are saying are very genuine. You could see it. And we ourselves, we are victims. And so they are speaking from their hearts. And it's very disheartening that you need your money to pay your school fees, to import some goods or to expand your business, take care of the sick one and all those things, and you're not getting the money. Very, very disheartening. And for you realize that from what they did, the demonstration, one, you could see there's a problem of communication, that they have not fully appreciated whatever the receiver is doing or the central bank is doing or the government is doing. And so this morning I heard you speaking with the Minister of Communication about communication, and the government seem not getting it. And it is worrying that if the government is not getting its communication right, they should sit up. Two, you could see the problem with the cap that was placed on those funds. It was on this program that I made mention that this cap was going to create problem, and it is creating problem, and it is suggesting that until the president made the statement in his Christmas message, it was suggesting that the government didn't pay attention to the non-bank financial institutions. And it is very worrying that if a government doesn't know the impact of the non-bank financial institutions, like the savings and loans companies, the finance houses, the microfinance companies, the rural banks, you'll be tickling yourself with all that, thinking that the commercial banks control about 90% of the assets. But the reality is that the non-banks control majority of the accounts, the numbers. And these are the numbers that everyday life we see. Somebody looking for only 500 cedis, 300 cedis, repayable over 3 months, will not go to the commercial bank. As we progress, I will be showing you some figures. And the approach, as they mentioned, they themselves even saw that the regulator or the government did not treat the customers of the savings and loans and the finance houses and the microfinance well. Why? Because commercial bank customers had the opportunity to continue to do business with their with CBG and GCB. So why did they change?
So their bank accounts did not evaporate.
It didn't.
They were not left in the cold.
Exactly. And
But
so you realize
customers
that,
of finance houses and savings and loans were left like orphans in a sense.
exactly, not even in a sense, in reality, because now you have to go and queue to get your own money. You see, we should also separate what created the problems from the role that the government needed to play, the role the central bank needed to play, the role that the players themselves needed to play, and the public. That is not the issue we're dealing with. But the customers at the demonstration are even talking about the approach. That why didn't they even create a body? Let's assume that is tedious. Couldn't they have even identified 1 or 2 or 3 savings and loans and say, customers of these savings and loans or finance houses or microfinance continue to do business with this or that financial institution because the money that the government claimed they have pumped into the system is given to those companies to continue to serve them. And there's an evidence that when the customers of UT and Capital Bank were given to GCB, they didn't collect or withdraw all their funds. So why do we want to give the monies to the people outside the banking
Do we know
industry?
how many people are like these customers? Because I recall I was told that some of the institutions like First Allied, they've been court cases for which reason the receiver did not pay them. And the majority of customers have been paid. From what you know, do you know how many people are still not fully paid in terms of the savings and loans side?
We are told, what I'm aware of is that at the savings and loans companies only, the 15 had about 2.3 million customers.
2.3 million
Yes,
customers.
Exactly. So,
Serious?
Yes.
Wow.
Now, these customers, GN alone had about 1.2 customers.
GN savings and
I
loans.
tell you. Yes.
Indum's GN savings and
Yes,
loans.
about 1.2 customers. And so,
Wow.
if you look at the court cases and all these restrictions, it prevented the receiver from actually processing the claims and validating them and helping the customers. Now, since last month, we have seen progress. Some are getting their monies. And so, if even GN, First Allied, Unibank, CDH, only these 4 institutions, customers will constitute almost around 70-75%, and they have not been paid, you should know that majority have not been paid. So if even other customers of other companies have received their monies, the majority of the customers have not been paid. On top of it, if the receiver were to have paid all the validated claims and all the monies below even the 20,000 cap, if they had paid and the customers have been duly notified and gone for their monies, it would have covered about 90% of the numbers. And so the cap is an issue, but at this time, some people less than even the 10,000 or 5,000 have still not gotten their monies.
Wow.
So if they have not gotten their monies, then there's a problem.
Let me take Nana's comment before we take the president and some other issues. So watching people December ending, a year after a resolution, say they've not received their monies, as PEF, what's your comment?
Does the government recognize the depth of this crisis? Does the government recognize its responsibility under this crisis? People did not go play poker. They did not play susu. They did not put their money in any illegal activities. They placed their monies in institutions duly licensed by the legitimate authorities. And they can't get their money. And government is sitting idle. And somebody was talking about communication. What has communication got to do with it? How you can spin some venom into the air and say that government is doing what it's doing? No. The president himself, recognizing the deficiencies and difficulties, came out in his Christmas message. Bank of Ghana, Ministry of Finance, this is not just a promise, directive. I'm using the word directive as instructions from the head of state head of government who has appointed these surrogates to go and make sure that they pay the depositors whose monies are still locked up. 30 days ago, these directives were issued. And as I sit here, nothing has happened. There may be some internal activities, that what I call the bureaucratic tendencies to delay action. And if we're going to do that, then definitely it's going to affect everybody else. The contagion effect, the collateral effect, the impact on other businesses. And we have one senior economist in our system, Mr. Kwame Pianim, also coming out and saying that government, please wake up and pay these depositors. So what are we waiting for? All these lamentations, all these kind of gimmicks and the receiver and all that, it's not going to solve the problem. Pay the people.
With what money?
With the money that government is responsible, whether they have to float a bond or they have to create, and as Mr. Kwame Pianim said, print money.
You agree with print money?
No, I wouldn't worry any other ways but to make the monies available. Because, you see, the danger of eroding the confidence of people in the financial system going forward, it might not be realized in 2 years, 3 years, but it might impact the economy in 5 to 10 years because the money, as we speak, the money in the system is less than the money out of the system. So where are we going to have the intermediation to be able for businesses to go to X institution to borrow, to go to Y institution to facilitate and maintain kind of liquidity? So we have to look at the long-term effect. We have to look at how it's affecting businesses today. The individuals whose monies are locked up, they own businesses. The mom and pops, the KIOs, the people in the markets. These are the most vulnerable, and they constitute about 82% of the informal sector. And the micro institutions, the savings and loans, are the ones that are servicing these clientele. And if they are the ones that are going to suffer, obviously, the majority of them, they take their money and say, thank you very much, goodbye, we're not going to come back.
In your view, how large is the size of the unresolved issues in terms of those who still are suffering? Because the receiver did tell us that a lot of people have made claims, a lot of people have been paid in the various levels of banks and stuff like that. As he said, the bank's customers have continued with the 2 new banks. There have been other people who have been paid. Based on what you know as PEF, how large is the size of disgruntled people who don't have access to their monies?
You see, it's not the volumes of people, it's the quantum of resources.
The value of the money, not the number of people.
No, we said that 90% of the people whose monies were locked up were paying 10,000 and below 10,000, 20,000. What about people with 4 million, with 5 million? Are they going to take 10,000, 20,000 to do what? So these are the people, even though they're not formalized businesses, they're running businesses. Because we all know we constitute informal sector businesses that operate within our systems. And these informal sector, they are the ones that have the money locked up in there. I know a lot of them because they come to us. And they complain bitterly. And I have 5 million here. Somebody has 7 million here. Somebody has 2 million here. How did they get rid?
So even though in terms of volume of number of people, we may have paid a lot.
Yes.
In terms of the value of money.
Thank you, sir. That's where I'm going.
Because the cap literally paid those at the bottom of the pyramid. And a lot of the people up there whose monies are large have not been paid.
I had a conversation with one of the senior government leaders. And she said, oh, Nana, we paid 90%. I said, okay, let me give you just a little sheet of paper and look at it. She says, oh, these are the volumes. I said, yes, sir. These are the people whose monies are more than the 10,000. Well, 10,000 is minuscule to them. What is he going to do with 10,000? Maybe that's not even a day's transaction. But they cannot get access to their money. And you saying that, oh, we're trying to resolve because we want to resolve the malfeasance, we want to go. The same receivers, they were the auditors, some of them. The same receivers, they were part of the accounting firms that were sanctioning these institutions that they were legitimate and the accounting practice were above board.
So which part of government are we blaming? Government is large. Is it the central bank? Is it the finance ministry? Is it the Ministry of Information? Because there's so many dimensions to this.
Let me take the chain. Who licensed these institutions?
If it's the
Bank of Ghana,
yes.
SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission.
Yeah.
Those are the first order of business to take responsibility. Who are their supervisors? Minister of Finance. They have to also take responsibility. They have to make sure that these institutions perform. And then the ultimate is a good old man, the president of the country. And he has come out. I'll absolve him for the time being because he has now come out and said, issue directive. But my point is, if he issued the directives, has he gone back to check what action has taken place? And if there's no action, then
let's hear what the president said. He spoke. There are two things the president said. The president spoke in his Christmas message, and this was on December 24th Eve, directing actually, that savings and loans, finance house and microfinance customers be covered by the same arrangement that covered the bank customers. Let's hear that first. Later on, you'll also hear what he said at the New Year's school in terms of prosecution of those who led to the crisis. So let's hear the president.
We've had to take painful but necessary measures to sanitize and save the banking system, a process which I know has brought discomfort to many a household. It is worthy to note, however, that the jobs of some 6,500 workers were saved as a result, instead of the 10,000 that could have been lost, in addition to the protection of funds of 4.6 million depositors. Thus far, the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana have worked together to guarantee payment of 100% of deposits of customers of the failed banks, which is being done. I've directed the Ministry of Finance to work with the Bank of Ghana to ensure the same applies to customers of microfinance and savings and loans companies whose licenses have been revoked. Investigations into potential criminal conduct are proceeding. As it appears, there's been a massive diversion of assets of these financial institutions. I assure you that the outcome of these inquiries will be made known very soon, as well as the actions that will be taken to bring those responsible to.
So this is the president speaking to us on 24th.
Yes, sir.
So that's a month and a few days ago. Mm-hmm. So your point being that for now you absolve him because he said what we expected to hear.
And the surrogates are supposed to perform.
Bank of Ghana, Ministry of Finance.
What are they waiting for?
Don't forget that this statement was made after the budget was read. We had borrowed up to 15 billion cedis in various bonds to resolve the problem up until now. So if a president makes a statement which has budgetary implications after a budget has been read and approved, you don't expect that within a month people will go and be paid. Number two, I'm just framing the number two, sure. You've already committed yourself to a fiscal rule and a certain level of fiscal deficit which won't go beyond 5%. And you've codified that in law. Mm-hmm. And you've said that if any finance minister spends above the prescribed amount, he can even go to prison. Right? Now, why didn't he say this before the budget was read? He said this on 24th. The budget has already been read. Mm-hmm. Where is he going to get money? Where is finance minister going to get money to pay this extra 6 billion or 7 billion that you and this guy asking that be paid?
Running a country is like running a business. You always have to have contingencies. You always have to have a fallback position. The country, in case there's catastrophic crisis within a community, do we say we have streamlined our budget, we don't have any resources left, so we can let them go? No. That's not how we run a company. That's not how we run a business. They can go to Parliament. Let me give you one example. I had conversation with the leadership of Parliament and said, can we go to Parliament and create the quantum of resources so that it's a collective action between those opposition and the leadership to create the resources to pay off and then resolve once and collect and pay up. It can be done. Countries do.
With money from where?
With money from... Look, the authority of the country lies in both the leadership of Parliament and the leadership of the executive. So we cannot say that budget implications alone, so that's the end of the game. No, sir. No. We have to step outside the plate and then create the resources to make it happen. Because what should we do? The budget alone guides everything? You don't think before the president spoke, he had spoken with the Minister of Finance, spoken with the Bank of Ghana? By all means. So they have to come up. If they said it cannot be done, I want somebody out of the two institutions to step up the plate that Mr. President said, but we can't do it because of budget implications.
But nobody's going to say that.
Then where are we?
The workability of the president's directive is what we are seeing.
The president is the authority, the highest authority of the land. I don't think he spoke out of ignorance. I don't want to.
So you believe that there's money to pay the people?
There must. If there's no liquidity creating money.
How do you create liquidity?
You can float a bond.
They've already floated so many. They are going on a euro bond.
Is that the end?
They are going on another, but our debt profile is also going up.
Wait. You see, you go in the euro market to get a euro bond in. You go
$3 billion.
Yes,
that's what they're looking for. They are starting a roadshow this week.
Yes, can we borrow similar amount and pay people who has legitimate funds in the system?
But you can't go and borrow dollars to pay cedis.
No.
Now you are going on a
float it in here. Float the bond here.
So you think there's enough money here for people to lend to government after all the problems the sector is facing? Where is it going to get the money from?
Believe me, if you put the interest rate, every investor is looking for returns. Put the interest or the coupon at a certain level, there'll be people rushing to.
So they can raise the $7 billion from here.
Oh my goodness, $7 billion is nothing. I'm looking at even $25 billion to fix our roads, and I'm looking at
that they can raise domestically.
Oh please, for God's
sake! Do you know
our
total domestic tax we raised in 2019?
Sir, I'm not talking about paying it 1 year, spread out. What we have, tax anticipated bonds. You raise the tax anticipated because your taxes are about $1 billion a year. You take 5 years and 50% of it. You raise the bond and pay in 15 years. These are economic activities. These are fundraising, mobilization mechanisms that are in place. If we don't know, there are people who know. There are systems who know, and we should be able to raise the money.
This is the point of view. We're talking to two key people in the conversation about Ghana's financial sector cleanup. It's been 2 years, 5 months since the first two banks were taking over. Are we out of the woods yet? We'll find out when we come back. There's more. My guest, Junibo Akodia, who is from the Association of Savings and Loans Companies, and of course, Nana Osei-Bonsu from the Private Enterprise Federation. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Point of View. Today we're looking at Ghana's financial sector, the crisis that engulfed the sector a couple of years ago. Government's attempt to solve it from the banking, savings and loans, microfinance perspectives, and of course the fund management perspective. How have you been affected? If you're watching, send us a comment on our WhatsApp number that we are putting on the screen. And in fact, whether you are still owed money, if you're a customer who's not been paid or whose payment has been capped, send us a comment. I'll be happy to read it. My guest in studio, Junibo Akodia. He's from the Association of Savings and Loans Companies. And of course, Nana Osei-Bonsu, who's from the Private Enterprise Federation. Now, let me take you to a suggestion Mr. Kwame Pianim made. So he said some very interesting things in an interview we had with him last week when the Finance Ministry announced the formation of what he called the FX Development Committee. But this comment was really to do with the effect of the financial crisis on people. He actually said this could kick the government out of power, not in as many words. But his point was that the government needs to print money, if possible, to pay everybody. This is Mr. Kwame Pianim.
Decent people who worked 70 years of their lives for this country, their pensions were put on deposit with some of these so-called distressed banks. They are now being asked to go to the receivers. You have 1 million, 2 million cedis that you were using the interest to finance yourself. They say go and collect 20,000, 10,000 cedis. They've done nothing wrong. My suggestion was that pay them. Let the Bank of Ghana, even if it has to print money, because this is not inflationary. It's earned money, my earned money in a bank. So you give me the deposit in the new bank, it's there, I can take it. But we are making it difficult for the NPP to win this election by stealing money from decent citizens, because that's what you are doing. You are stealing money.
So Mr. Kwame Pianim doesn't mean words. He says people's monies have been stolen and that they should be paid. Is that how you feel you, the people from the sector, those whose monies have not been paid? Because he said there are people who are owed millions of cedis and they're only paying them 20,000 or 10,000. And so government should look for money and pay them. And he also seems to suggest that this could have political implications or even electoral consequences. Is it that big? Are people that angry on the ground?
Yes. People are not happy. Let me use the same words from the government. In the morning, the Minister of Communication actually told you that the central bank is independent of government. You remember?
Yes, he did.
Section 3 of Act 918, that's the Bank of Ghana Act, as amended, says that except as provided in the Constitution, the Bank of Ghana, in the performance of its functions under this Act, shall not be subject to the direction or control of any person or authority. So it is true, the government is different from the central bank. So when we are discussing such issues, we should know what the role of the central bank and the role of government. Now, we have gone past the role of central bank. Because if I'm to tell you the kind of thing the central bank has been doing since these things came up, you see, they themselves agree that they erred along the line. But a number of things, I'm sure later we can talk about what Bank of Ghana is doing to ensure that we don't go back. But we have gotten to where we are. Now, what is left is actually a government action that is needed. You need the government to be very bold in doing what is required now. One of them, what Nana is mentioning and Mr. Piernim was mentioning, are you aware that the savings and loans sector, if I'm to take the 2018 credit report that was done, the savings and loans average loan is 3,800.
Average loan.
A
customer in a savings and loan takes.
Exactly, 3,800
cedis.
But if you are to take that of the commercial bank, was 48,000. That's the average loan. What does it mean? It means that the savings and loan sector gives small loans to a number of people. Now, somebody comes to you and says, I need 500 cedis. I can't pay over 1 month. I need to pay it over 6 months. This the bank will not do. Now, if I'm to even quote the number of credits that the savings and loans and these people granted in 2018, universal banks granted 21.6 billion. 21.6 billion to 312,000 clients. Savings and loans companies granted 2.3 billion. So this is roughly around 11% of what the banks did in terms of
to
value.
How many people?
To how many people? 435,000 people.
So they are giving less money to more people.
To more people. So if you are a government and you do not pay attention to the lower tier institutions, the savings and loans, the finance houses, the rural banks, and the microfinance, the reality is that you are killing a lot of households, a lot of businesses. And in Ghana, we are all aware, our businesses are small. And so a lot of lives are affected. And if you look at it, then it should tell you, are you aware the last time this country had a microfinance policy was in 2007? Since 2007, Ghana has not had a microfinance policy. Are we interested in the lower tier? No. And these are government policies. Did you hear anything for the lower tier financial institutions in the budget? When was the last time you heard anything? None. And so when we are talking about these things, we are talking about the way forward. What has passed is past. Now the problems were created. We are looking for solutions.
Should government have merged the 22 savings and loans and microfinance into an institution like it did for the banks, instead of just saying, I've appointed a receiver, go and collect your money? so that their being customers would have continued. Because in a sense, you've also lost customers, right?
Yes.
In hindsight, would that have been a better approach to maybe create one or two companies which will be government owned and say, this is a continuing going concern that then migrates your debt or your credit to?
That would have been the
easier.
ideal
Yes.
situation. That would have been the ideal situation. But in situation where you are constrained by resources and a number of issues, mind you, there are a lot of legal issues and all those things also as part of the processes. If you cannot do that, which would have been the ideal, what you do is that you make all the funds available to the customer. So it's either you create a vehicle such that the customer will continue to have access to his funds gradually, such that he doesn't lose any of them, or you say, I pay you everything. Now, paying you everything, we don't have it. So why didn't we go by an approach that will help continuity? Of course, I'm very sure, I've not discussed any of this thing with them, but I'm very sure they didn't consider the numbers involved. They only looked at the figure as in value and thought that the figures as presented by the financial institutions, they could easily deal with it, pay them, and it closes it.
What about
But
in terms of employment? The president said that 10,000 jobs could have been lost, but they saved 6,000, I think he said, if I'm not mistaken. So I think 4,000 people lost their jobs. The approach you are suggesting could have then also created jobs, in the sense that if you have 22 companies disappearing, if each of them even employ 20 people, that's 400 and something people who don't have work to do.
I must say to the president, with all due respect, that the ones that they said they saved their jobs are not savings and loans companies.
They didn't save savings and loans companies?
I can say. Why? Because if you go around the country, the savings and loans, the finance houses, the microfinance companies who got their licenses revoked, the receiver retained only one staff per branch.
Are you serious?
Yes. If you retain one staff per
branch.
branch, how many branches do we have? So so we need to come back to the table. Are you aware? We wrote to the the Ministry of Finance as far back 2018. We never got a response. In 2019, we've written to the Ministry of Finance. Still, we've not gotten a response.
Writing that you should do what?
The issue is that, you see, we are in an economy, we operate in a system. Fortunately, the central bank, when you write to them that these are the problems we see, the central bank governor and his team calls you, we sit and discuss the issues. And I must say, the Minister of Communications says, and the laws I've read to you says, government is different from central bank. And so the central bank doing its work.
But the president just said that I have told the central bank and the finance ministry
to
pay.
work together to pay.
Yeah, so that's a directive.
Yes, no, they are to work together and ensure.
Yeah, but he says I
pay.
have directed. So the president, so even though the law is there, the president can direct them.
As Nana said, we don't know why we have not been paid. The financial institutions, that is even my biggest worry. You know, the financial institutions who are remained took deposit from depositors, did normal business, invested in these collapsed institutions. They are paying interest on these funds. These funds are locked up. Interest is not being paid on them.
So money is losing value.
Now, they are continuously accruing interest in their books, and the depositor will also come. So the little loan recoveries that they have used all the arsenals to recover, they have to keep it and pay to the depositor who comes next day. They are unable to grant more credit. Are you not aware that people are complaining that we are not getting loans? We are not getting loans. But the banking sector report from the Bank of Ghana says, if you read the report, loan book has been increasing for the banks.
For the banks.
So banks are giving loans.
But you guys are not
But
getting
the people on the ground says we are not getting loans. Why?
Yes, because
They've fixed the savings and loans companies, the finance houses, the microfinance, the rural banks are not giving enough liquidity to grant loans.
So your people don't have money?
So,
your members?
You see, they have money to ensure that they continue to serve their existing customers.
But they can't grant new
But
loans?
they can't grant more loans as expected. And so more homes are going to lack loans.
How many members, how many are left?
There are 25 savings and loans left.
25. And how many finance houses?
Finance house, there are 11 left now.
So 36,
Yeah.
25. So 22 went, 36 left. I see.
But Bernard, let me, TK, the crisis did not come from government. It came from microfinance institutions themselves. Mismanagement, misappropriations, and all these that happened. My point is that those who are responsible for those kind of actions will be penalized eventually. The responsibility of the government is to make sure that the people who patronize the services of these institutions are relieved and that they get paid the monies that they own. We're talking about the Ghanaian economy, the informal sector, the mom and pops and the kayus and the farmers and all constitute about 86%. These are the ones serviced by the microfinance institutions. They need that services. So what we have to do is grow the limited that survived, that did good business.
Yeah.
Those that did not do good business, they should be penalized.
Yeah.
But that is after the fact. Let's look at my deposit, your deposit, the deposit of the KIUs in the system and pay them. That's what we're talking about here. It's not as, because the crisis did not come from government. The crisis came from the microfinance institutions' mismanagement. They did. They're the ones that folded the action. So they should not be absorbed because government is also messing around. The government point of that Bank of Ghana is independent of the Ministry of Finance or of government. Yes. But they're not Chinese walls. There must be this fiscal policy by ministry, the monetary policy by Bank of Ghana. But they talk. They have to coordinate everywhere.
But if you listen carefully to what the receiver has said, they are realizing assets from the shareholders and owners of these companies. That's number one. Number two, President has said to us that people whose actions or inactions led to this will be prosecuted.
Thank you.
So it's not as if nothing is being done in terms
You're
of
talking
holding
about-
people responsible.
Holding somebody responsible does not relieve you from giving the guys his money. Holding you for malfeasance and what you did wrong is different. Give me my money first, and you go talk to these people because you licensed him. You gave
So
the
pay me
authority
before
to
you
take the money
prosecute
from me.
them. But the receiver's method is two. Government will give him some money, but he also has a raft of assets and liabilities. He's going to try and realize money from the assets, the good assets, to pay the people that the bank owes.
Yeah, Bernard,
I think that's the method.
Bernard, you're talking about apples and grapes. The responsibility now, 100% pay out to the people whose monies are locked up. The receiver's responsibility is mop up what you can get, look around and also prosecute people and take the assets that you can get. That is fine.
But the receiver also tells me in an interview, he told me that if, for example, one company said we owe people 200,000, when they go into the books, they realize that the company actually owes maybe 350,000 because a lot of what they did was off balance sheet. So now the size of the hole they have to fill is bigger than what government initially budgeted for.
The size.
That's why they have to realize assets to make up the difference.
No. You don't realize assets on the back of people waiting because I may not survive tomorrow. The business may not survive tomorrow.
So pay me now.
Pay them now. You see, that's the difference, and that's what government is making the mistake. That, we're going to recover. And the president, I think, was very careful in putting his sentence, making that those responsible will be penalized and prosecuted. That is regardless of what we do to the people who are now facing hardship because of
So
what
we
happened.
should pay them now.
Pay them now. I side with Mr. Kwame Pianim that this is the responsibility of government. You are talking about budget. We are talking about constraints and the kind of rules and regulations. Those can be made, and Parliament, we can go and amend. And the executive can go there. Parliament can initiate it. It's done everywhere. Let's make the payment to the people because now they have confidence in their government. Do we know what we're doing to them in confidence in our government? No. We're making them think that our government is inept. Our government doesn't know what to do. And somebody's talking about communication. What are you communicating? Give them their money. Not a talk.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll read your comments. So we receive a lot of messages on this. The message is very simple. Pay them now, which is what Mr. Nana Bunsu is saying. And Finibo Akode agrees as well. Stay with us. Welcome back to The Point of View. So here are some of your comments. Good evening, Bernardino. Please, what's the cap on the monies with the fund managers? I'm an affected customer. You'll notice I've been spoken about the fund managers. I'll do a second part of this show with the fund managers because they are regulated by the SEC. And for them, payments have just started. So there's a lot more we need to research before we do a show there. So I'll be bringing in the association in subsequent programs together with the SEC to address that. So today I'm dealing with the banks, savings and loans, microfinance people. Hello, Bernard. I haven't received any of my locked up funds at First Bank Financial Services and Gold Coast Securities. I'm a widow with 2 kids. And we are really suffering. I've lost hope in the financial sector. Dorcas, again, you are in the fund management space. I am reliably informed that payments just started. For some, I'm not sure of First Bank. I will find out for you. But today, I haven't touched on fund management companies yet. Bernard, I'm a customer of First Ally Savings and Loans, and I have not received my money. Solomon Bogatanga didn't tell us the amount. Bernard, in as much as this cleanup was necessary, something better could have been done to avert the sufferings. My funds are locked up with Gold Coast Fund Management. Now I'm Black Shield, and I don't know my fate. SEC sent a message last week only acknowledging receipt of my claim. I think a more pragmatic approach should be taken to resolve this. But to me, I say never again to these investment companies. Someone from your pay. Wow. Never? Bernard, hello to you and your panelists. I saved money at GN Bank until the bank was shut down. When we were asked to do the validation, I gave my GCB account number to the receiver. Today, around 4 p.m., I received a message from the receiver, an account number at CBG, to go and verify my account there. I have never in my life tried to do anything with the CBG. Okay, good evening. The state has clearly demonstrated that citizens who patronize the banking system do so at their own risk.
Thank you.
The Bank of Ghana, the government of Ghana, and bankers have sat at the table of the financial pyramid and allowed this to happen. And it is the citizen who suffers. Obed from who? These sentiments are pretty raw. Yes. Nee says, the problem here is the communication of the resolution being put in place. The BOG is not talking, and the governor and his deputies will make statements during events when they speak. The government itself is also quiet about what they are doing, which compounds the problem and the woes of depositors. So this is Nee, who appears to be a communication guru. Is confidence in the financial sector under risk, under threat? Should I take this as the views of majority of the people, or these are just a few angry people?
No, the majority of the people. I think one of the people that sent the message, never again. Why would I want to do the same thing within my life again? When my hard-earned money got locked up, I went through stress, and only if I am able to get something, that saved my life. Would I want to repeat that? No. So my issue is the confidence of the people today and tomorrow. How it's going to affect how they operate the system. Because if they don't have their money in the financial system, it's going to create a lot of chaotic conditions. How do they facilitate payments? How do they do some of the businesses that now we're talking about innovations and digitalization and all? How are we going to do that? So the liquidity in the system, or the confidence in the system, is critical. The integrity cannot be compromised. So let's look at whatever it takes and get the people to say, we're sorry. This happened because we have some greedy people who we didn't recognize were the greedy ones, and we licensed them. So now we're going to pay you, and possibly even pay them compensation for the wickedness and the things that had happened. And after that, people will say, oh, our government came to our rescue. This is a legitimate government that thinks about the people. But if government is sitting there and talking about communication, what is communication? When government is talking about the difference between the separation of Bank of Ghana's authority and the Minister of Finance, they all come under government. And this is the Minister of Finance supervises Bank of Ghana. We just said recently, about 2 weeks ago, when the Minister of Finance set up a committee of laymen to advise technical people of Bank of Ghana to be able to...
No, it wasn't a committee of laymen. There were people from the banking sector on that committee. There were people from... There were technical people on that committee. It was a mix.
Wait. When you say from banking sector, not all bankers have the understanding.
No, there were people from Treasury in some of the largest banks. I think 2 of the largest banks, their head of Treasury was on the committee.
Okay. The majority, let me put it this way. If you say that, the majority of the people, how can somebody importer of Kobe going to advise Ghana?
No, that was just Guta. But Guta doesn't import Kobe.
I don't know who imports Kobe. They import something, But the point I'm saying is, Bank of Ghana is equipped with technical, competent people that are trained to do this. You just mentioned the independence of Bank of Ghana, and you bring in the laymen to go and advise them. If they take it and goes belly up, who gets blamed? If they don't take it and it goes belly up, who gets responsibility? Let's see Bank of Ghana acting. They've been doing it. Yes, no country has ever had a fixed foreign exchange rate. No country, not even the good USA. It varies. But the hemorrhage sometimes is less. So what we're doing is we're trying to mess up every which ways. This crisis resolve the people's money so that there's liquidity in the system, so at least people can continue to do what they do in their daily lives. Then you resolve the kind of legal issues and the punitive measures that should be meted out. When we look at that, the receiver is looking to collect assets from people who had gone to court. Hey, the system.
So you've been very clear. Pay them now.
Thank you, sir. I can't say that enough.
What else do you need to add?
One, I support the call by the governor that the justice system should be looked at. Mm-hmm. Financial institutions are suffering because when they grant loans and their customers are not paying, you take it to the courts and delays and all those things. The Chief Justice and the Attorney General should look at how can they help speed up the process. We're not saying that we should not give fair hearing to people. The rule of law should work, but let's support the process, the legal process. Two, the customers who also owe these financial institutions, defunct and existing, don't think that since you owe a financial institution and the institution has gone down, you've gone scot-free. You will pay. One customer told one defunct institution when they were going to do the recovery that, Master, why are you calling me? The government says you will pay everybody. Give me space so that the receiver will come and meet me to make arrangements. You've defaulted already. Let's help the existing institutions. Let's pay our loans. The next one is that the building of the confidence in the industry is a collective responsibility. The media has a role. Financial institutions who have started doing well, let us all continue to play our role. Again, we support the various reforms the regulator is putting out there. We know the kind of things going on at the central bank. Can you imagine that now, even when they come for on-site inspection and you want to give them a bottle of water, they say, no.
They don't drink.
No, we won't drink. We brought our own water. We are happy that they are becoming responsive. There are a lot of reforms ongoing at the central bank. We know that we will bear the fruits and eat the fruits in future. Let us ensure that we go back also to the table to discuss the financial inclusion agenda of the country. I'm expecting the government to, as a matter of urgency, assemble all the players and let's go back and get the right policy for the microfinance subsector of the economy and look at how do we build back the confidence. The confidence build up, Nana has said it all, pay the people.
Pay them now.
And we are all good to go. Support the existing companies.
Let me end with a message I got from a member of CASLOC. He says, Bernard, we are all watching. Keep on, focus, and ask them why they can't migrate us to a bank and give us a payment plan. The receiver method is not helping us at all. This is from one of the executives of CASLOC. I've been talking to Nana Osebosu. He's the chief executive of the Private Enterprise Federation. He says, pay the people now. I've also been speaking to Chinebua Kodiabuachi, who's from the Association of Savings and Loans Companies. He endorses that position and says, what must be done or to be done right. My name is Bernard Avle. Thank you for watching The Point of View. We'll be with you again soon. Stay with CTTV. Bye-bye. Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed this video on City TV's YouTube channel. Subscribe for more videos on The Point of View. My name is Bernard Avle. Thank you.
The Point of View with Bernard Avle, Monday and Wednesday nights, only on City TV.